I think Dinesh Burat was driving when I called him, so he might be late.
Yeah,
Right.
you are right. Okay, that's fine. Okay. See.
Sorry, I was just on my way, but I'm here.
नमो अरिहन्ताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो उवच्छायाणं नमो लोये सवसाहुणम्. Okay, we are on chapter 7 of Vitrag Vigyan 2, or you also had homework of reading Namokar Mantra. So if anybody has read, I would like to hear some points on that first, and then we'll move on to the Ahimsa chapter in Vitrag Vigyan 2.
The main points I got was that our Nauka mantra doesn't ask for anything. There's nothing that we ask for compared to a lot of other prayers or a lot of other religions. I think that was the biggest thing that I thought was different and important, and it just basically talks about being within oneself and that you can be the God, or you can achieve moksha on your own.
So in the beginning, well, okay, you share whatever you got first, and then if somebody else read, they can also share their.
Yeah, and then I had questions on the page 15 was a little difficult, but otherwise,
Where
and it also talks about
Sadak Bhav is,
Acharya and Upadhyay.
okay, you had a question on page 15, you said, which is the Sadhya and
The
Sadak.
last, yeah, Sadhya Bhav or Sad
Yeah,
Sadak Bhav
I can
se.
explain that.
Right.
Sadhya means your goal.
Okay.
Okay. So your goal is to be with yourself, right? Who
Okay.
you really are. That's the goal.
Right.
Sadak Bhav is the person who is on that path to reach the goal. So
Okay.
while you are on the path, you will be called Sadak. Once you,
Mhm.
so like Siddha Bhagwan is Sadhya Bhav or even Aryant Bhagwan,
Oh,
and all the Acharya Upadhyay, they are Sadak Bhav.
Sadak Bhav.
Because
Okay.
they've gotten Samyak Darshan, which means they have self-realized and now on the path, what Bhagwan did, they are doing
Right.
that charitra. So that is what that is.
One thing I liked, if I may share,
Share.
one thing I liked in there was that this Mahamantra is not Vyakti Vishesh. It is
Yes.
more the aradhana of the people who have reached the Aryanta and Siddhapad. So it is not Vyakti Vishesh. And that's where I think they had said the Meri Bhavna may say, like, Buddha Veer Jin Hari Har Brahma Ya Usko Swadhin Kaho. So it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be a particular person, which I really like. And the sentence is really nice there. व्यक्ति विशेष की महिमा से सांप्रदाय पनपते हैं और गुणों की महिमा से धर्म की वृद्धि होती है.
So see, when you talk about Ram followers, Krishna followers, Vishnu followers, there is so many panth or whatever in Hinduism, right? And so is the case in Jainism too, of course, Shwetambar, Digambar, and within each of those, there is so many ones. But still, the Namokar mantra or who you worship to is the same, no matter which sect of Jainism you come from.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is because ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई श्वेतांबर महावीर को पूजते हैं और दिगंबर कोई और को पूजते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है at least, right?
Yeah.
Then we only talk about the good characteristics. That's what we worship. We don't worship the person. We worship the person because he has those characteristics. If he doesn't have those characteristics, he is not worth worship. Okay. अब जैसे in Hindu or Christian, you have Jesus, right? अब वो Jesus cross पे लटके हुए हैं. That is not a reason to worship for us. But if Jesus also self-realized and reached moksha or be with himself, then he is worshipable. That form of Jesus is worshipable to us. Okay, so same way, agar koi Hindu kul mein paida ho gaya, right? But they also take the diksha and they do the same, charitra like chains and attain moksha. That is also pujniya for. Or aisa hota hai bahut. The people who take diksha are not all born in Jain families. A lot of them come from Hindu families and they decide that this is the path for them and they take Jaineshwari diksha. Gautam, Gandhar was from Brahman or whatever family and he realized. So anybody can realize themselves. They don't have to be born as Jain. But yes, they should follow the prescribed method, that you have to take diksha, you have to have charitra, you have to have vitrakta, sarvagyata. Only then it is worshipable. So we focus more on that rather than कि हम राम को पूजेंगे कि कृष्ण को पूजेंगे कि महावीर को पूजेंगे कि पार्श्वनाथ को पूजेंगे. ठीक है, हमारे लिए राम भी पूजनीय है. और वो क्यों? क्यों
Because वो भी तो मोक्ष में गए ना.
मोक्ष में गए, इसीलिए वो भी साधुपना लेके मोक्ष में गए. अब राम हिंदुओं के लिए भी पूजनीय है और हमारे लिए भी पूजनीय है. पर हमारे राम की अगर मूर्ति होगी तो इट विल लुक एग्जैक्टली लाइक महावीर, राइट? इट वोंट लुक विद धनुष. हम धनुष बाण वाले को नहीं पूज सकते क्योंकि वो तो खुद ही इनसिक्योर है. हम उसको पूज के क्या करेंगे?
Auntie, what is sarvabhaumik? Sarvabhaumik
means in all spaces.
All spaces. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So everywhere it applies.
Right. Okay.
So the Namokar mantra, the way the mantra is today, could have been written, let's say 2000, I don't know how many years ago. But when they say it is all this sarvakalik, sarvabhaumik, all those things, what they're saying is the characteristics of people that they're talking about were always in existence and will always be in existence.
Yeah. One thing I also liked in there, they said that which was new to me was sadhu, upadhyay, and acharya. So in one place where they don't say uttam for acharya and upadhyay, and the reason is because upadhyay and acharya just have that extra 6 gun to them, whereas but they are sadhu to begin with.
Of course,
so,
yes.
So that's why they're uttam. Sadhu is uttam. But when you say uttam sadhu, then they're included in the acharyas and upadhyas are included in there.
And not only that, before going to moksha, acharya and upadhyay are seats.
Yes.
They're positions. So they are basically sadhu with those 2 special positions. And with the position, nobody goes to moksha.
Yeah, you have to come down.
So go to moksha, you have to give up your acharya pad or upadhyay pad.
Right. Yeah. That was interesting for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing which was the destroyer of all sins, we say, right? This Maha Mantra basically is destroyer of all sins. It is not all sins, it is all types of sins. Right? So everybody thinks that
No. It's not all types of sins.
Let me complete. Right. Okay. So it's not like destroyer of your old sins. Obviously, when you are uttering this mantra at that time, you are basically not creating any sins. Right, but it doesn't mean, right, that how people do it, right, that I utter this right mantra and then say all my previous sins are also destroyed.
Right.
That's not what it means. It says it destroys all kinds of sins, and at the moment when you're uttering this, right, then no sinful sentiments, right, originate when you are saying this mantra.
So okay, when you say all types, it's a bit confusing. What they're saying is all types means the 5 paps, which is Hinsa, Jhoot, Chori, Parigrah, and Kushil. तो वो पांचों, while you're pronouncing the mantra, it is not possible to do. अब मंत्र बोलते बोलते मैं झूठ कैसे बोलूंगी या चोरी कैसे करूंगी, या that's what they mean. And because of that, in fact, in Shwetambar Parampara, I have heard a lot that the acharyas or munis will give people 1 lakh namokar mantra bol do. Abhi, where was I? I think I was at the Orlando Jain temple, and these ladies were saying कि अभी तो एक नया चला है 9 lakha हार. My God, 9 lakh namokar mantra. When would you say? Day and night you would be just doing that. So, which is the reason they do that is for mundane people, for all these ladies who are retired at home, only have house duties, और घर में तो वो भी नहीं होती इंडिया में जिनके पास सर्वेंट्स हैं, तो वो क्या करेंगी दिन भर बैठ के? किटी पार्टियां करेंगी, गॉसिप करेंगी. टू प्रिवेंट फ्रॉम दैट उनको बोल दिया जाता है आप 9 लाख नमोकार मंत्र कर लो, which means you would end up spending 4-5 hours at least just doing the Namokar Mantra ka jap, which means during those hours you will not be able to do the gossip and pap bhav.
Auntie, and in addition to that, what you just said, this sentence actually makes sense कि जिस समय इस महामंत्र का जब आप जाप करते हो, बट भाव पूर्वक समझ पूर्वक स्मरण करता है, उसके हृदय में उस समय कोई पाप भाव उत्पन्न ही नहीं होता, right? When you're doing it with bhav and smaran.
हाँ, that plus as you progress, as you understand सिद्ध क्या, अरिहंत क्या, आचार्य क्या, उपाध्याय, तो तब now when you do Namakar Mantra, you will have more bhav because now you know the characteristics कि वो वीतरागी है, क्यों हम उनको याद कर रहे हैं, what all did they do that I now need to do, how to them naturally the passions don't come because that is not the natural state of the soul. So
Yes.
now you have that additional knowledge that will flow with you when you're saying the Namakar Mantra.
Yeah.
So, okay. Then,
and I like the explanation of that one example they gave. Amit, to your point where you said that पूर्व पाप धुल नहीं सकते हैं, पर how the चौकीदार का example वहां पे दिया कि चौकीदार रात में चौकीदारी जब करता है, पर सुबह चोरी हुई तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि चौकीदार ने को रखकर गलती हुई है. It's just that now you need to do चौकीदारी in the morning also.
Yes.
So that was a very good example to explain how Purva Bhav nahi nikal sakte. So that it's really well.
Yeah, not only that, I remember there was a time when you're learning this naya na, ya fir India se koi aate the speakers, and in the Shvetambara Parampara, this is quite a bit, okay? वो नमोकार मंत्र की महिमा बताएंगे, and they would have hours and hours of lectures on नमोकार मंत्र की महिमा, including a lot of the stories and whatever. तो जो इसमें भी आई है पार्शनाथ के and all that. So I remember there was a time when I was driving from home to work, I'm constantly saying Namokar Mantra. Coming back, I'm saying, whenever I got a chance that my mind is free, I was like constantly doing that, So, and which is fine, because if you don't do that, your mind is an active thing. It's gonna bring something or the other. So, well, if you want to prevent all those thoughts, then might as well do the japa.
So, Prabha ji, just one small technical doubt कि हमारे जो सबसे पहले class में we learned a slightly different pronunciation. So Namo Arahantanam and then Namo Ayiram. A few things were different. So I noticed that you still say Arihantanam. So I guess they're both okay, right? You can say
they're both okay, yes. It depends. So like I said, there is a Prakrit pronunciation and then there's a Sanskrit pronunciation. Prakrit pronunciation is Namo Arihantanam. Okay, like it says, yes, in this book, if you notice, the front cover of the book says, okay. Now, when you do it in Sanskrit, the na changes to na, and so there are some differences. So that's why both are correct.
Okay, but you just want to be consistent and do either the whole thing in Prakrit or the whole thing in Sanskrit.
Yes, it's better that way, but it
So when
can
you do,
happen, and
so
that's okay.
Eso Pancha Namo Yaro is Prakrit, but Eso Pancha Namo Kara is Sanskrit. But
It's
dono theek hai,
that's correct.
but they should be
Yes.
consistent, right?
Yes, they should be consistent. Yeah. But just so you know कि कभी मुंह से भी निकल जाए तो वो गलत नहीं है, वो language का mixing है.
But Arihanta. So it's not good. What you're saying is not consistent. Arihanta.
फिर उसमें वो बताया कि पार्श्वनाथ की स्टोरी की वो उन्होंने निधि और सफलता ने पढ़ी कि नहीं पढ़ी?
जी मैंने 11 pages की. I'm sorry I couldn't finish 15 pages.
Okay, you can share whatever 11 pages that you read. उसमें से आपको जो भी highlight you want to do something, that's good.
जी like 3 hymns common है जैन के all sects में. Bhaktamar, number 1 is a Navkar mantra. Bhaktamar dance, number 2 and number 3 is Tattvartha Sutra. So there is no variation in all the sects, like बाकी सूत्र changes होंगे.
And that pretty much covers a lot of the Jainism. So in the core of it, between the Shwetambar Digambar, there is not a huge difference. Okay. The prioritization could be different. Just give me a second. Anyway, so what I was saying was ki, I'm sorry, I missed my point. Aap kiski baat?
Shwetambar, Digambar, it's similar
what I was
prioritization.
saying was ki Shwetambar or Digambar, actually even within Digambar, the jo hum pad rahe hain or the rest of the world, what they do, the difference is that we are trying to learn like the highest level thing, right? That ultimate is be in your soul. We are starting from there. The rest of the world starts with sadachar, jhoot mat bolo, chori mat karo, the basics, right? और फिर उसी में अटक जाते हैं. वो basics तो चाहिए. Of course, you have to be a good person. You cannot be a murderer and have interest in these kind of things. That's not going to happen. So you must have sadachar. You must be an honest person. You must not be stealing. You must not be lying. All those things are the prerequisites, of course. But वहाँ क्या होता है कि because people don't go to listen to pravachans, they only come during Paryushan or once in a while. So the acharyas think कि भाई इनको तो ये high level की बात नहीं समझेगी, तो वो फिर वहीं अटक जाते हैं. They only talk about those things and what should you do and ये व्रत ले लो वो कर लो. That doesn't mean they don't know any better. They think that's all they can give to those people. So as a result, unfortunately, in the paramparas, people didn't get the true religion, So because agar wo atma ki baatein karenge and it's the first time somebody came, it's going to go over their head and they're going to say, oh, I don't understand it, so I don't need to come. So because of that, the sadhus, they try to tell stories and, tell the basic stuff. So people kind of get it and they think it's worth coming. So anyway, so that's the prioritization is the difference. So those paramparas don't focus on the key point, who are you and what you need to be within yourself, which is the core of Jainism, which is what really truly dharma is. And dharma, unfortunately, has been propagated as doing vrat, doing upvas, this and that. So there are a lot of different, in Tattvat Sutra, when we learn, we will have this statement, Vastu Sahavatu Sahavo Dhammo. The true nature of any Vastu is the true Dhamma. So Dharma basically is the true nature. Okay.
One more.
Auntie, I also liked one thing there from Acharya Kunda Kunda, that they say in the book that he even goes further one point, and that is instead of thinking that Pancha Parmeshti, but he's saying that actually go towards your Atma, because
Yes.
that is where, so he says sab atma hi ki avasthaएं hai and atma hi hai sharan.
Right.
Those
So
stages.
what he's saying is कि वो सारे जो सिद्ध अरिहंत और वो सब हैं, at the end of the day, what are they? आत्मा है.
Yeah.
Same Atma was sadhu, then it was given a designation of Acharya, then it reached Aryan state, and then Siddha state. So these are all the states. But ultimately, it is the soul, your own soul, not anybody else's soul, that you need to reach.
Right.
So yes, so that is the ultimate Sharan. But until you get to that path, yes, you do want to listen to the sermons and Jinvani that those Panch Parmeshtis have given. Okay, then they had that Parshnath story कि उन्होंने वो उनको नमोकार मंत्र सुना दिया, वो snakes को, तो उसको स्वर्ग मिल गया. So I know when I was little, because this story is very common, you get to hear it as a child also. So if I saw anything, I did that today also. It's funny. We went to this lake and some guy was doing fishing probably, और उसके ट्रक में एक आइस बॉक्स पड़ा था. And I am assuming, I didn't see it, that there must be fish in it. और वो ढक्कन टड़प टड़प हो रहा था. So I was like, so bad, this poor fish is in there and it's probably,
तड़प रही है.
तड़प रही है. हाँ. So right away मेरे मुंह से नमोकार मंत्र, and then so I kept saying that, and that thing was calm, like it wasn't whatever doing. And then moment I started leaving that place, again it was jumping. Again वो उसका जो ढक्कन था वो ऐसे ऐसे होने लग गया. So anyway, so I kind of, because of this story, I guess you get that sanskar कि कोई चींटी भी गलती से मर गई है तो तुम उसको नमोकार मंत्र सुनाने की कोशिश करते हो कि भाई उसकी गति सुधर जाए and all those things. So these are, but so this is a myth buster. Because आपने उसको नमोकार मंत्र सुना दिया, there is no guarantee कि उनको स्वर्ग मिल जाएगा. Just because वो snakes को मिल गया, वो उनकी अपनी doing के कारण मिल गया, not because पार्शनाथ ने नमोकार मंत्र सुना दिया. So that's another thing.
मतलब ये जो हिंदुइज्म में ग्रेस का कॉन्सेप्ट है वो नहीं है ना जैनिज्म में.
नहीं ऐसा नहीं.
No grace, yeah.
Now, but you should understand that in detail. So let's say these fish were, उनका suppose वो उसी टाइम में उनका, see you can जो तुम्हारा आयु का बंद होता है ना, like where you would go next. We'll get to it, but I'm just telling you in ahead. So it happens 2/3 of your lifespan. So let's say you were to live at 90 years of age. First opportunity you get is at 60. अगर 60 पे नहीं हुआ तो between 60 and 90 again 2/3 जाएगा तब होगा, and that so on and continue till, if it still doesn't happen, then at the time of death as to where you go next, right? So now what can happen is that suppose if this fish was तड़पोफाइंग एंजाइटी बैड whatever, उसी टाइम उसका समझ लो डिसाइड हो रहा है कि वेयर इट्स गोना गो, और उसने नमोकार मंत्र सुना और उससे उसको बहुत शांत उसके परिणाम हो गए. परिणामों के अनुसार उसकी गति बेटर हो सकती है, बट डजंट मीन होगी, बिकॉज इट इज क्यूमुलेटिव ऑल्सो फ्रॉम birth, how you have been. Suddenly you don't calm down if you've always been agitated all your life.
But auntie, there is an importance that at that time you were there as a nimit. Not
Yes.
every fish that is dying gets a navkar mantra towards the end, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
मतलब हो सकता
Do
है.
it by all means, but don't
Yeah.
think कि आपके नमोकार मंत्र
Yeah.
करने से वो कहीं स्वर्ग वगैरह पहुंच जाएगी. That's all.
नहीं, yeah.
But the fish or an animal can only live by its nature, right? They can't do anything good or bad. They'll just do by
Oh, of course
whatever
they can. Are you
nature.
kidding? Even आलू प्याज के जो निगोदिया जीव होते हैं, वो भी, उनके भी राग द्वेष होता है. How do you think they come out of nigod to ekendriya and then to indriyas? They have to do something good in order to come out of that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Like if suppose it's a tiger, its nature is to kill and eat.
Fine,
It
its
needs to
nature is
eat,
to
right?
kill and all, right? So वो तो
Right.
होगा, उसके nature के हिसाब
But
से
they don't
करेगा.
have the thinking power as much as
They do,
humans
the
do.
tiger does. Because Mahavir ka jeev was in the lion form when he got Samyak Darshan. Because tiger is, or lion is a Panchendriya jeev, Panchendriya Sangni. So
Right.
you have 5 senses
Yes.
and you have mind. Sangni means you have the power of thinking. So even though you are born as a tiger or a lion, so with Gati comes certain characteristics.
Right.
So you are going to be carnivorous, you are going to kill animals,
Right.
all that is going to come with the whatever, right?
Right.
But you still have bhav. So you could have jati smaran from your previous life and know that I'm doing wrong. He may not approve of it, even though that's what he's having to do during this life, right? Knowing that this is sinful, he may not approve of it, but he may not have a choice either because that is his life right now. For example, there is this story about a butcher. Okay, he couldn't find any other job and he had to feed his family. The only job he could get is butcher. Every day, let's assume it was a Jain butcher, right? Jain था, उसने कभी मीट बेचारे ने खाया नहीं, पर अब करे क्या, परिवार को तो पालना है और कोई और जॉब नहीं मिल रही है. Only job he could get is of a butcher. So what is he going to do? Either have his family die of hunger or get the job and feed his family, right? So he has to take the job. But every time he does that, he repents that I have to do this to feed my family, but I really don't want to kill these people.
Mhm.
So, because of his bhav, he does not, I mean, you can't say completely doesn't get
Yeah,
any,
yeah, but
but it's much reduced
much
because
reduced.
उसका भाव उसमें नहीं था, वो मजबूर कर रहा था. On the other hand, there is another story of this one guy who was so violent. Every day he used to kill one pada hai story mein. Pada means a male cow, I think, or male cow child. That is what is pada, right? So this guy used to every day kill one pada. तो महावीर भगवान को किसी ने कहा कि ये इतना हिंसक आदमी है, प्लीज हेल्प अस, कि इससे रोज रोज नहीं मारे, इतना सबको जानवरों को मार रहा है वो. तो महावीर भगवान सेड कि उसकी जो प्रवृत्ति है, यू गाइस कैन नॉट हेल्प इट. सो एवरीबडी सेड कि नहीं नहीं ऐसे नहीं है, हम करेंगे कोशिश, राइट? सो व्हाट दे डिड वाज दे टुक दिस गाय, उसको एक ड्राई कुएं में डाल दिया, राइट? लाइक कुआं दैट डजंट हैव वाटर, ओनली हैज कीचड़ का, इसको यहाँ डाल देते. अब ये कुएं में से तो निकल नहीं सकता, ही कैन नॉट गेट होल्ड ऑफ पाड़ास एंड ही कैन नॉट किल देम, सो वी विल प्रिवेंट दिस गाय फ्रॉम किलिंग. तो ठीक है, उन्होंने कर दिया ऐसा. बट दैट पर्सन वाज सो यूज्ड टू डूइंग दैट किलिंग, यू नो व्हाट ही डिड? वो कीचड़ में बैठ करके रोज वो कीचड़ से पाड़ा का शेप बनाता और उनको मारता, फिर पाड़ा का शेप बनाता और उनको मारता. तो उसको उतना ही पाप लग रहा था जितना कि वो रियल पाड़े को मारने का लग रहा. सो इट्स ऑल अबाउट द भाव.
But आंटी, अगर ऐसे लोग होते, because we talked in a few classes ago, कि ऐसे भी जीव होते that will never go to moksha, right? So it almost feels a little bit depressing because that guy is in a cycle कि मतलब वो कब निकलेगा उससे? Like how can he get out of that bhav?
But you know, that percentage is so little. It's insignificant. It's like you buy a bag of moong, right? And there's a couple of them that just won't boil. It's like that. And well, is their destiny. None of us are there because the fact that we even have the inquisitiveness of soul and all that, right? So, ठीक है, that is the reality of life. वो किसी ने उनको ऐसा बनाया तो है नहीं.
And maybe कभी ना कभी उनके कान पे अच्छे शब्द गिर सकते हैं, एक दो भी गिरे.
You never know. अभी जो शास्त्रों में आता है हम इन चीजों को जान लेते हैं, पर हम किसी और का दुख अपने सिर पे लें, वो अच्छी बात नहीं है. क्योंकि at the end of the day, we can only help ourselves go to moksha. We cannot help somebody else. We हम निमित्त बन सकते हैं उसको ज्ञान देने में, पर हम किसी को मोक्ष नहीं पहुंचा सकते. भगवान भी मोक्ष नहीं पहुंचा सके. आदिनाथ के टाइम में महावीर was his grandson. Everybody else went to moksha with him, or before him rather. All his sons went to moksha. Bharat, Bahubali, everybody went to moksha before Adinath. But this grandkid decided to go his own way. And could Adinath not help him? No. Even though he was a Tirthankar, he couldn't. Mahavir had to do his own thing.
So in case of Panchindriya, like the lion example, the tiger example, how do they get this self-realization or Atma Gyan, the knowledge of that,
They
right? So
have the ability to get Samyak Darshan. They do. So the story about Mahavir, I mean, in this lion Paryay is, so he was in the middle of eating a deer, right? Lion is going to kill the deer, and ऐसे जो भी फाड़ के खा रहे हैं, his mouth is dripping with blood and all that. And suddenly, two munis come in the sky, and he gets Jati Smaran, which means he gets this thing where I have seen something like this before. So from his previous life, he recognized this is something I've seen before, right? As they get closer, they remind him that you were this and what are you doing? And he, let's say, you guys are all studying this knowledge, right? So now it's all part of you, right? So it's if you you know what's a wow factor? Like from when you were 7, 8 years old, how many things do you remember? Maybe one or two.
Not too
Yeah,
many.
very few.
Something that really impacted you. Like from my childhood, when I was 10 years old, I had a fight with my brother in a double-decker bus in Mumbai. And he pushed me and I got bleeding, and I still have that memory because it impacted me. So something that is a wow factor impacts you, it stays with you and can go with you to your next life. So that's what happens. So इस शेर के जीव को इतने सालों का नॉलेज तो था. He had the idea of what is sadhu, what is Jain Dharam, what is what. In the Sher Paryay, obviously it was out of his memory once he took birth as a lion. But when that happened, because he's a Panchendriya Jeev, the memory has an ability to recollect, that he was able to recollect that knowledge that they were trying to. And then he realized, oh my God, what am I doing? And he went into deep meditation and obviously stopped eating whatever he was eating and got Samyak Darshan. So that happens to snakes, lion, any Panchendriya Sangni Jeev, whether it is animal form, whether it is in the heaven, in the hell, or human form.
But ये जैसे पंचेंद्रिय जीव ये तो carnivores है, मतलब अगर वो meat
Carnivorous से तो भी चलेगा, but it has to be Sangni Panchendriya.
No, but what I'm saying is that if they stop eating meat, they'll die. So do they just give it up? Like जैसे cats होते हैं, right? They have to eat meat. That's what their bodies are built to eat. तो अगर वो नहीं खाएंगे तो they just have to give up their body and give up their life?
Which has happened in some stories. There's a story about this elephant who there was a big fire and there was this little खरगोश जो उसके elephant ने खुजाने के लिए एक पैर उठाया, right? और कोई चीज के लिए एक पैर उठाया. And since there was this whole crowd of animals, they were running all over the place because of the fire, because of the wild fire in the forest, that this one little rabbit couldn't find space anywhere else, so he happened to land under the elephant's foot. So the elephant saw that and he realized, oh, if I put my foot down, this rabbit would be crushed. So he chose to just leave his foot up. तो वो अहिंसा पाल रहा था, दया पाल रहा था. But in the process, he ended up dying because he wanted to save the rabbit and he didn't care about his own eating or anything else. So, and that happens. And in the lion's case, even if, let's say, he got Samyak Darshan, right? Now, if he was to continue living, he may still not have a choice but to eat meat, because that's what that gati has to do. But that is okay, because वो चारित्र का दोष है. श्रद्धा का दोष उसका मिट गया.
Acha, okay,
It's
okay.
this is the soul.
So he's getting less pop basically because he knows the right way, but he's majboor for his body, right?
So when we understand more details, there is two types of mohniya karma: darshan mohniya and charitra mohniya. Darshan mohniya is the wrong belief. Charitra mohniya is the wrong conduct. So your conduct can be wrong, even if your belief is right. Conduct can take a little longer to be correct.
Can you give an example of that, Auntie?
Just say Muniraj, right? I mean, in true sense, you're supposed to take Diksha after Samyak Darshan, right? So Samyak Darshan हो गया, मतलब आपका belief तो सही हो गया. फिर भी उनमें कमी है. उनको राग द्वेष है, लोभ भी है, वो भी 10वें गुण स्थान तक जाता है. So they give an example of a fan. So you turn off the switch is like a Shraddha. Shraddha ho gayi puri. Now you've turned off the fan, but there is still that little energy left in the fan. So it still rotates till it comes to a full stop. So same way, the karmas that you've already accumulated, those are going to come into fruition, and wo jo charitra ka dosh hona hai, wo hoga. ठीक है ना? सो ऐसा नहीं है कि सम्यक दृष्टि जीव बिजनेस छोड़ देगा या वाइफ बच्चों को छोड़ देगा. He may not be able to do it depending on his situation. In which case, चारित्र का पाप उसको लगेगा.
If you think of even humans, I mean, if you think when we started, we must have had be eating meat, right? I mean, the agriculture is only 10,000, I don't know how many, whatever years old.
It's very possible. Like
Yeah.
eating meat is just, I mean, one aspect of being, what do you call, compassionate. Okay. Right now, it became significant because it has become like a, what do you call, lakshan jisko bolte hain. Like if you're a Jain, you should at least not eat meat, right? But it's not, just because we don't eat meat doesn't mean we don't do worse pap than eating meat.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, still, you should keep that in mind. I'm never to do this, because you cannot say कि just because मैं दूसरे और पाप कर रहा हूँ तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है meat भी खाना.
Right.
That doesn't go like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, it's possible. कोई जमाने में, yeah, nothing was available. Maybe they ate meat. I don't know. So, but I know, because you know what? Adinath ke zamane se he taught the Krashi, Masi, all those things. So those skills had already started. So if you knew how to do agriculture, you wouldn't have to always eat. So this is this Western philosophy that everybody was apes and they had to eat meat, and then the human developed that. No, that may not be true. Because Adinath was in human form in the third ara, end of third ara, fourth ara. So that theory may or may never have happened.
It is also said, Prabha ji, कि हमारे सारे 24 जो तीर्थंकर थे, देवल और क्षत्रिय राजपूत थे, तो देव इनिशियली
बात सही है, वो वॉरियर क्लास के थे, पर हमारे शास्त्रों में मैंने कहीं नहीं पढ़ा कि वो मीट खाते थे. तो ये पॉसिबल है कि आज के क्षत्रिय मीट खाते हैं और तब नहीं खाते होंगे. वी डोंट नो. राइट? आज हो सकता है वॉरियर क्लास को खाना पड़ता है, और आज भी ऐसा नहीं है. There are lot of cases in the US military as well as Indian military where they are vegetarians, the soldiers are. So doesn't have to be. So because that is what we have learned, So we right away relate Kshatriya with meat eating, but that's not always the case. Just like I used to always relate Punjabis with meat eating. Then I found out that no, there are a lot of Punjabis that are vegetarian. Okay, so good. So between some of you, we kind of got the gist of the first 15 pages. Par jisne nahi pada, please read, because until you read yourself, you won't get the gist of it, right? Okay, now for your next week, the homework is from wherever you left off all the way till, so I didn't realize that there are actually chapters in this book. So instead of 15 pages, I could have told you guys to read the whole first chapter. So now we will read from whatever is left of this chapter plus the second chapter, which is Bhakti or Gyan. And the reason I'm doing this is even though it's a self-study book, but doing it this way, it'll be easier for you guys to read, because otherwise it's kind of tough to say, oh, I'm going to read this whole thing now in one sitting, or this is self-study, so I have to do it. This way, the whole class is doing it together.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I have also read the chapter.
Okay, sure. So you can add some points. No
So,
problem.
I think all the aspects of the chapter have already been covered, except I would like to add 2-3 points. That एक नमोकार मंत्र अनादि है और अनंत है, बिकॉज जो पंच परमेष्ठी की हम इसमें उपासना कर रहे हैं या जो इनको हम नमस्कार कर रहे हैं वो अनादिकाल से हैं, मतलब पहले भी थे, आगे भी होते रहेंगे. और दूसरा जो उपासना कर रहा है वो भी पहले भी था और आगे भी रहेगा.
Yes, see, that's another point. So जो हम जो कर रहे हैं, who are we? Who am I? I'm the soul. I always was, I always will be.
दूसरी बात कि मोक्ष मार्ग जो है वो निज भगवान आत्मा की शरण में जाने से प्रारंभ होता है. जो पंच परमेष्ठी हैं उन्होंने भी अपनी आत्मा की ही आराधना कर रहे हैं या की, मतलब जो साधु हैं वो अपनी आत्मा की आराधना करते हैं, सिद्ध भी अपनी आत्मा की आराधना करते हैं और अरहंत भी अपनी आत्मा की आराधना करते हुए अरहंत अवस्था को प्राप्त हुए हैं. तो मुक्ति मार्ग का मार्ग जो है अपनी आत्मा निज भगवान आत्मा की शरण में जाने से प्रारंभ होता है. और तीसरी बात कि जो मुक्ति का जो मार्ग है उससे रीझने से मोक्ष प्राप्त नहीं होता. आपको अपनी आत्मा की शरण में जाना है, मुक्ति की रटना नहीं लगानी है या मुक्ति से ऑब्सेस नहीं होना है. मुक्ति अपने आप आ जाएगी. लेकिन जो लोग सिर्फ मुक्ति की कामना करते रहते हैं और उसी को मांगते रहते हैं, उनको कभी मोक्ष प्राप्त नहीं होगा. ये टेक अवे.
तो देखो, हाँ, so the third point जो उन्होंने बताया, see, lot of people, if you notice, if you go to the temples, तो वो लोग क्या बोलते हैं, भावे भावना भाविये भावे दीजे दान भावे something
भावे केवल
भाव मोक्ष. So like they're asking for मोक्ष, जैसे कोई मोक्ष कोई vacation place है जहाँ उन्हें जाना है. That is not the case, right? So moksha is not a place to accomplish. Moksha is just a state of your soul. And you want to be within your soul. So once you're there, it doesn't matter. It just so happens that when you are in the purest state, you happen to be in this place called moksha, or that state is called moksha, and physically you may be in the Siddhashila. But that's really irrelevant. Because आप वहाँ हो कि धरती पे हो कहाँ हो, it doesn't matter once you're in your soul. So yes, that's an important point also. So very good. Thank you for bringing that out, Nitiji. So, okay. So everybody make a note. You're going to read up to the second chapter, Bhakti or Dhyan. It's a very good book. Yeah, this will give you lot of very good beginnings, even though the book is called Namokar Mahamantra, but the kind of things you will learn in this book is quite amazing. So, all right. So now let's get back to our Vitrag Vigyan 2. So we'll start with the chapter Ahimsa, right? Last time we did Saptavesan, right? Anybody remembers what was important in that chapter?
The 7 addictions: gambling, uh, non-veg eating, right? Drinking alcohol, enjoying prostitutes, hunting, adultery, and stealing.
Very good.
Yeah. So everywhere
Yes.
there was a bhav, right, and a dravya version of it,
Mhm.
right, where the bhav was more profound, like right, more deeper understanding of those, right, and the others were our normal understanding of what stealing is, hunting is, etc.
So what you realize is, even though you may think you were not doing any of those paths, you actually are, because of the other aspect that we learned, right? So very good. Okay. So now we'll start with Ahimsa chapter, and it is made up of 5 pages. So, and you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So we'll just divide it into people, okay? So, Safaltaji, you will start to page 1. Then Deepali, you will do the next page, the 34 in the Hindi book, all the way up to towards the lower part, the Atma Parinam part, right? Wahan tak. Then Nidhi ji, you will start from Atma Parinam all the way to Ko Samajh Nahi Sakta. Just mark yourself. You can read in English, Hindi, doesn't matter, okay? Then Viraj, you will go from Atah to Kathan Janna Chahiye. And then let's see. And then the next paragraph, Amit, you will read Yahan Yah Prashna wo wala. And then Dinesh, you will finish all the way till the end. Okay, so everybody will remember their part?
Yeah, I'll have to read in English. It's okay, right?
Fine. Yeah, whichever suits you, it's fine. Okay, so Safaltaji, you start.
ठीक ये अहिंसा वाला चैप्टर राइट आध्यात्मिक संतों में कुंदाचार्य के बाद यदि किसी का नाम लिया जा सकता है तो वे हैं आचार्य अमृतचंद्र। दुख की बात यह है कि 10वीं शती के लगभग होने वाले इस महान आचार्य के बारे में उनके ग्रंथों के अलावा एक तरह से हम कुछ भी नहीं जानते। आपका संस्कृत भाषा पर अपूर्व अधिकार था। आपकी गद्य और पद्य दोनों प्रकार की रचनाओं में आपकी भाषा भावानुवर्तिनी एवं सहज बोधगम्य माधुर्य गुण से युक्त है। आप आत्मरस से निमग्न रहने वाले महात्मा थे, अतः आपकी रचनाएं अध्यात्म रस से ओतप्रोत हैं। आपके सभी ग्रंथ संस्कृत भाषा में हैं। आपकी रचनाएं गद्य और पद्य दोनों प्रकार की पाई जाती हैं। गद्य रचनाओं में आचार्य कुंद के महान ग्रंथों पर लिखी हुई टीकाएं हैं। नंबर 1 है समयसार की टीका, जो आत्मख्याति के नाम से जानी जाती है। नंबर 2 प्रवचन सार टीका, जिसे तत्व प्रदीपिका कहते हैं। नंबर 3 पंचास्तकाय टीका, जिसका नाम समय व्याख्या है। 4 तत्वार्थ सार, यह ग्रंथ गृद्धपिच्छ उमा स्वामी के गद्य सूत्रों का एक तरह से पद्यानुवाद है। 5 पुरुषार्थ सिद्ध्युपाय, यह गृहस्थ धर्म पर आपका मौलिक ग्रंथ है। इसमें हिंसा और अहिंसा का बहुत ही तथ्यपूर्ण विवेचन किया गया है। प्रस्तुत निबंध आपके ग्रंथ पुरुषार्थ सिद्ध्युपाय पर आधारित है। अहिंसा एक विवेचन।
ओके, सो यहाँ किसकी बात है? आचार्य अमृतचंद्र की, ठीक है। सो अमृतचंद्र was soon after Kundacharya, so he's obviously pretty old, and well, I guess not that old. According to this, it is 10वीं शताब्दी, which is 10th century, is not that long ago. In fact, I saw some 10th century temples in Bhopal this time when I went there. So what he did was, jo Amrit Chandra Acharya, I mean, sorry, jo Kund आचार्य के जो ग्रंथ थे, by then Sanskrit was popular. See, originally Kund wrote some things in Kannada, maybe some in Prakrit, and then Sanskrit was popular. So this person thought that, oh, he'll make it easy for people by translating it in Sanskrit. So he not only translated, he also added his own explanations. So he had a very good control of the Sanskrit language, and he could do prose and poetry both. Okay. So lot of his writings are basically critiques on Kundacharya's agams, which is Samay Sar, Pravachan Sar, and Panchastika. Now, but today's time, unfortunately, when he wrote it, it was supposed to be in simple language and easy to understand for people. If somebody gave us his writings alone, we wouldn't understand anything today because it's all in Sanskrit shlokas. So now we have to read something that is further explained from Sanskrit to English, and then finally from, Sanskrit to Hindi, and then Hindi to English, right? So Samay Sar Tika, when he did that, they had to come up with another name for it, which is Atmakhyati. So basically in Samay Sar, what you have is Kund Acharya's original Prakrit verses, and then you have Amrit Chandra Acharya's Sanskrit verses, which further clarify the Prakrit verses. And then the book we eventually will read probably is Bharilji's Samay Sar Anushilan, which covers everything, which is Kund Acharya's verses, then Amrit Chandra Acharya's, and then Bharilji's explanation, and another Acharya's, explanations. So you get a little more comprehensive, okay? And same thing with Pravachan. Now, and then Tattvart Sar is his version, Sanskrit version of Tattvart Sutra, which also originally was in Prakrit. Now, Purusharth Siddhi Upay is the only book he wrote of his own. He did not take somebody's and critique on it or translate. And that Purusharth Siddhi Upay is a Charnanuyog Granth, which means it talks about punya, pap, what to do, what not to do. Okay. Or from that, they have taken this Ahimsa chapter. And it just so happens that my other class, which is semester 7, they just finished Purusharth Siddhi Upay. So we read in detail. There was like pages and pages, like 30 pages on Ahimsa in that book. So,
and a few words. आपकी रचनाएं गद्य और पद्य. So what is गद्य और पद्य? Is it like
prose and poetry? Gadya is prose, Padya is poetry.
And what does Uma Swami के गद्य सूत्रों का एक तरह से पद्यानुवाद है. So yes, so it is prose then. It's more in writing, not in poetry. Correct. Should I read the next part?
Yeah, I think it was you, yeah.
अहिंसा एक विवेचन. अहिंसा परमो धर्म. अहिंसा को परम धर्म घोषित करने वाली यह सुक्ति आज बहु प्रचलित है. यह तो एक स्वीकृत तथ्य है कि अहिंसा ही परम धर्म है, पर प्रश्न यह है कि अहिंसा क्या है. हिंसा और अहिंसा की चर्चा जब भी चलती है, हमारा ध्यान प्रायः दूसरे जीव को मारना, सताना या रक्षा करना आदि की ओर ही जाता है. हिंसा और अहिंसा का संबंध प्रायः दूसरों से जोड़ा जाता है. दूसरों की हिंसा मत करो, बस यही अहिंसा है, ऐसा ही सर्वाधिक विश्वास है. अपनी भी हिंसा होती है, इस तरफ बहुत कम लोगों का ध्यान जाता है. जिसका जाता भी है तो वे आत्महिंसा का अर्थ विभक्षण आदि द्वारा आत्मघात, आत्महत्या की ही मानते हैं, पर उसके अंतरतम तक पहुंचने का प्रयत्न नहीं किया जाता है. अंतर में राग द्वेष की उत्पत्ति भी हिंसा है. इस बात को बहुत कम लोग जानते हैं. यही कारण है कि आचार्य अमृत चंद्र ने हिंसा और अहिंसा की परिभाषा बताते समय अंतरंग दृष्टि को ही प्रधानता दी है. वे लिखते हैं, अपराधुर्भाव खलु रागदीना भव्यते हिंसिति तेषु मेवोत्पत्ति हिंसोति हिंसोति जिन्नागमस्य संक्षेपः राग द्वेष मोह आदि विकारी भावों की उत्पत्ति ही हिंसा है और उन भावों का उत्पन्न नहीं होना ही अहिंसा है। अतः
विस्पष्ट पढ़ना है आपको and then let the other person read. Okay, so this is an important paragraph कि देखो हिंसा तो everybody knows, right, कि violence is not good, but how violence is described is very different. So everybody knows मोटा मोटा कि किसी को मारो नहीं, किसी को सताओ नहीं, you know, that is basic अहिंसा. Here they say कि Jainism goes beyond that. Ultimate is that राग द्वेष की उत्पत्ति ही हिंसा है. The moment you have attachment or aversion, right there is hinsa. Because wherever you have attachment, you are bound to get bad thoughts for anything that happens to the attached person. Okay? Example, you know, somebody is hitting your child. Because you're attached to your child, you will try to go protect your child. And in turn, if you have to, you'll hit the other person, whoever is hurting your child. Right? Now, then they talk about Atma Hinsa. So, of course, there's Dravya Hinsa, which is suicide, which is obviously not good. But also, when you get anger, you are suffering first before you get angry at somebody else. So, right there, you are doing first Hinsa to yourself and then to the other person. So, and nobody thinks of it that way, that Hinsa is being done to your own self when you're not in your natural state of soul. So, ultimate ahimsa is to be in the natural state of your soul. Okay? So, if any word or anything that anybody wants to ask, otherwise the next person can start reading. Were you reading next, Nidhi ji?
हाँ, अतः वे स्पष्ट घोषणा करते हैं कि राग द्वेष मोह रूपी परिणतिमय होने से झूठ, चोर, कुशील और परिग्रह भी प्राकांतर से हिंसा ही है। वे कहते हैं आत्म परिणाम हिंसन हेतु तत्वात् सर्वमेव हिंसते अनृत वचनादि केवल मुदाह्यत हतम शिक्ष्य बोधाय। आत्मा के शुद्ध परिणामों के घात होने से झूठ, चोरी आदि हिंसा ही हैं। भेद करके तो मात्र शिष्यों को समझाने के लिए कह गए हैं। योग्य आचरण करने वाले सत्पुरुष के राग आदि भावों के नहीं होने पर केवल पर प्राण पीड़न होने से हिंसा नहीं होती तथा अयत्नाचार असावधानी प्रवृत्ति वाले जीवों के अन्य जीव मरे चाहे ना मरे हिंसा अवश्य होती है, क्योंकि वह कषाय भावों में प्रवृत्त रहकर आत्मघात तो करता ही रहता है और आत्मघाती महापापी कहा गया है। यहाँ कोई कह सकता है कि जब दूसरे जीव का मरने और ना मरने से हिंसा का कोई संबंध नहीं है, तो फिर हिंसा के कार्यों से बचने की क्या आवश्यकता है? बस परिणाम ही शुद्ध रखे रहे। इसका उत्तर देते हुए आचार्य कहते हैं सूक्ष्मापि।
So here, what is the main point they're talking about? Ki parinam, your thought process, your what is going behind the scenes is what is more important. We mundane souls are always lazy people. We don't care when we walk. We don't even think ki what is, like, we are not ayatnachar jo word hai na, that means to be aware. See, साधु का तो रूल होता है वो 7 हाथ जमीन देख के चलते हैं. They are supposed to look, be aware that they don't kill. तो उसके कारण, even though they still, the naked eye cannot possibly see the minutest of the जीव्स, right? So ऐसा नहीं है कि साधु के पैर के नीचे नहीं मरते हैं जीव, पर उनकी प्रवृत्ति ऐसी है कि वो देख के चलते हैं, वो नंगे पैर चलते हैं ताकि कोई हो तो भी उनको फील हो जाए और वो नहीं मारे उसको। फिर भी अगर मर जाए, क्योंकि उनका इंटेंशन मारने का नहीं है, वहां पर उनको हिंसा का दोष नहीं लगता। हमारा भी इंटेंशन तो मारने का नहीं है, पर हम प्रमादी जीव हैं। हमारा फोकस वहां नहीं है कि मैं नहीं मारूं। हम तो धड़ 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 कार चलाते गए, उसके नीचे कितने जीव मर जाएं किसको क्या पता। फ्लाइट में जाना जरूरी है जी, फ्लाइट में असंख्यों जीव मर रहे हैं, एंड वी डोंट केयर बिकॉज फ्लाइंग इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू अस। सो that is called pramad, where what is your priority? Our priority is not to save. Our priority is our luxuries, our routine, our vacations, our whatever. And that is why we are called pramadi. So even if we were walking and we really actually did not kill anything, still we get the dosh because we are pramadi.
What's the exact meaning of pramadi? Focus is not there.
Yes, we are not aware souls.
So, Auntie, you're saying that the sadhu sadhvi जो देख के ओगानी से वो सब क्लीन करके चलते हैं और उनके कीड़े मर भी गए खाद बार, पर हम ऐसे भी तो आर्ग्यू कर सकते हैं ना कि उनको क्या जरूरत थी एक जगह से दूसरे जगह जाने की, बिकॉज वो वहां बैठ भी जाते तो उनके पैर से जीव नहीं मरते थे फिर। सो बट यू आर सेइंग दैट उनको पाप नहीं लगेगा,
देखो
उसका दोष
अगर
नहीं लगेगा।
आचार्यों ने ये विधियां बनाई है, यस, they could have been just sitting in the upashraya and somebody could bring the food to them, but no, there is a reason why these vidhis are made, that they are going to go out and get their own food. Okay, it has its own connotation. There is a reason why those systems are made. Yes, they could have made it so they don't. No, because going and getting for food only happens when you get that भाव कि मुझे खाना है, जो कि रोज आए ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है साधु को। अगर वो मेडिटेशन में बैठे हैं, नहीं भी खाएं उस दिन। प्लस वो जब जाते हैं लेने, उनका एक रिचुअल होता है। दे हैव लिमिटेशंस व्हेन दे कैन टेक द फूड, व्हेन दे कैन नॉट टेक द फूड। So if they don't get according to their limitations, they don't accept the food.
Right.
And that is a test of their tolerance.
Right.
So they go because they felt like eating, they don't get it, they come back and then they do upvas and they're content and happy.
And they just something regarding, because we are talking about sadhu, जो साधु मतलब यहाँ पे कहीं पे तो भी नवकार मंत्र के बुक में लिखा था अनुशीलन में कि जो साधु नहीं पूरे रूल्स फॉलो करते हैं तो वो एक्चुअली साधु है ही नहीं।
That is true.
तो फिर मतलब फिर इंडिया में मैंने कभी देखा था कि मेरे जो मामी साहब वो लोग थे तो वो कुछ जो एक संघ के लोग थे मारासा थे, उनको गोचरी नहीं देते थे बिकॉज दे आर लाइक ओ दो साधुस डोंट फॉलो द रूल्स। पर अब इसमें पाप हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है, मेरे समझ में नहीं आता।
Okay, so here is the thing. Okay, so there's always a little this thing about it. So some shastras say ki if they are in the sadhu vesh, now there's also an argument. Digambars will say if they're only in the Digambar sadhu roop, Shvetambars will say the other way. But if they are even, they call them Dravya sadhu, whatever, Dravya lingi, right? Which means you don't know if they have Samyak darshan or not. You can only see that they're like physically they've left the house and they're sadhus. Then you are supposed to respect them. You are supposed to give them alms.
Okay.
Because you don't have a way of knowing whether they have Samyak darshan or not.
You don't know what their inner state is, so
yes.
Can't judge, right?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. But if you obviously see them doing something against the rules of a whatever sadhu, then again हम लोग ऐसी जगह रहते ही नहीं है जहां हमें साधु को देने का काम पड़े. Again, you have to use your own discretion.
Judgment.
But I mean, we do have sadhus who travel to North America, for example, right?
They're not sadhus. You cannot call them sadhus. They're not following the rules of a sadhu. So technically, they have to give up their sadhupana and become Shravak before they come to America. So Sushi and Chitrabhanujis were not sadhus. They were sadhus in their previous form, but not when they came here. They were respected because they were in India, so people kind of gave them that respect. But no, you have to give that up when you come to America if you have to travel. Okay. So yes, you have to use your discretion. But when we understand what is a true sadhu, even if we give them alms, but we will know how much respect they get. So you can respect people for several reasons, right? But you should not respect them as sadhus if they don't meet the characteristics of a sadhu. Okay. We already read the Vishnu Kumar story, right? Or have we not yet?
No.
Maybe it's in Vitrag Vigyan 3 then. Okay. All right. So if there is a sadhu who needs to do something that doesn't fit the criteria of a sadhu, then they have to give up being a sadhu, come to a Shravak role and do what they need to do, and then they can again take Diksha if they have to. But if you call yourself a sadhu and don't follow the rules, then you're doing chal kapat. तो उसका दोष उनको लगता है. Okay.
इसका उत्तर देते हुए आचार्य कहते हैं.
Oh wait, okay, next person has to now. Who was next after that?
Where are you?
It starts with the Sukshamapi. Are you reading next, Viraj?
Oh no, I'm after that.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead and find that shloka. Sukshamapi na khalu. It should be in diacritics if you're reading. Oh no, sorry.
No, I'm not reading it just yet.
Who is reading? Who is next?
I was supposed to read up to हिंसा को समझ नहीं सकता.
Yeah, so keep going.
Correct. And Ataha was Viraj. From Ataha was Viraj.
Oh, all the way. Okay, maybe you know what? I must have shortened because वो last वालों को एक ही paragraph मिल रहा था.
Oh, okay. Then Viraj can start, right?
Yeah, go ahead then.
Viraj, in English, it's on the page 47, end of 47. Sukshmapi.
Yeah, Sukshmapi na khalu hinsa paravastuni bandhana bhavati punsa.
Bhavati punsa.
This is horrible.
No, you're reading fine. Just
Yeah.
if there's no line, you're pronouncing not that's all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it came out pretty good actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hinsa yatnan vritti.
Vritihi, very good.
Parinam vishuddhaya tadapi karya.
Very good. You're reading better than sometimes people can read it. So it's okay.
Okay. Although paripasu, non-self-object, is never reason for himsa, even then for purifying a parinam, psychic thought, places and possessions of himsa, etc. should be abandoned. We are not saying that what is himsa is vyavhara, convention, like harassing someone, making them unhappy, etc., is not himsa. It is indeed himsa because these involve pramad, negligence. But if the focus stays centered only on these, then we fail to recognize that the bhav himsa which occurs within. Therefore, here the attention has been especially drawn towards bhav himsa, the internal violence in the form of rag, attachment. Any jiv who can't renounce even the outer gross himsa will never understand this internal himsa.
Yeah.
Go ahead, read one more paragraph and then you're...
Hence, for purification of mind, it is vital to give up action causing harm to other jiv, like avakshay baksan, consuming prohibited edibles, and eating at night, along with giving up of honey, meat, alcohol, and the 5 udumbara fruits of consuming these leads to killing infinite jeev with 2 or more senses. And one parinam, temperament becomes callous. In jeev, inclined towards ahimsa and having manda kashaya, low intensity of passions. These understrained tendencies cannot be found.
Okay. So now they're trying to explain hinsa in more detail. So first they talked about that somebody else cannot cause you to do hinsa. Okay. So let's say you may say, when the children fight, उसने मुझे पहले छेड़ा इसलिए मैंने उसको मार दिया, right? That's a normal brother sister fight or brother fight, right? So no, you couldn't have hit that person without you getting that hinsa thought. Even though you may blame that, oh, this person invoked me to get angry or to beat him up or whatever the case may be. So the other person cannot make you do hinsa, number one. But to have your thoughts pure, parigrah adi ko chhod dena chahiye. So accumulation also causes hinsa. So you should try to avoid that accumulation tendency. Okay.
How possession causes hinsa? Sorry, can you give an example?
Yes. So there's a story where there's this king who had everybody was relatively well-to-do in his kingdom, and so one day it was raining, and the king is just roaming around his his rajya, and he sees far away there's this guy in the rain. He's doing some work, and he's like, who is this guy? Why is he so poor that he's having to work hard in this rain in my kingdom? So he goes up to him and he says, what do you need? Are you in need of money? I can give you money. You don't need to work so hard in the middle of the rain. He says, no, that is not the problem. I am just working because I have to finish the 2 bulls that I have. I've already finished 1 bull full of precious stones, and the second bull still needs to be filled with the precious stones, and I'm working towards it. So think about that. This guy is torturing himself, working. Why? Because he's trying to finish having these 2 big bulls full of precious stones. So we may not be having bulls, with precious stones, but what do we have? Extra houses, extra cars, bank accounts that we know we will not possible to consume in our lifetime, jewelry, all kinds of extra stuff. And that is parigrah. And we don't give up working. And I've heard this, I've done this myself, not just heard this. So let's say you're working, you're in your 40s and 50s, right? I tell you, you have enough money for the rest of your life. You should give up working. You know what's the answer? No. I'm not working for money. I'm just working because there's nothing better to do. How will I pass my time? Or, there's like 100 reasons people can give you. I want to keep my mind active, whatever. I have this ability, so why not to use it? There's several reasons why people want to work. But inside, it is the parigraha that is taking them towards working. Because think about it. If they would be interested in their soul searching, they will not be bored. They will not need to work. All the reasons that they think they need to work for are gone. I mean, it's not I did that myself before. If somebody, well, me later, first my husband, when he wanted to retire at 50, I'm like, oh no, you can't retire at that young age. What are you going to do sitting home? And then he would say, okay, how much money do you need? You tell me the amount, and if we have that much, then I'll retire. And I'm like, I would give all kinds of excuses like, I cannot tell you how much money I will need because how can I predict inflation? So I just thought that there was just no way I could give him a number that, okay, if we have this much money, then you can retire. So eventually, he decided to make a spreadsheet and said to me that, okay, whatever I'm making today, I'll continue to make the same amount or maybe more till I die. And our expenses are going to be less than what they are today. So he kind of obviously logically, mathematically proved it to me that it's okay for him to retire. Okay. So anyway, so that happened. And later on, I realized, of course, I was still skeptical then, but later on, I realized how true he was. And then I said, oh my God, he could have even retired 10 years sooner and it would have been just fine. So we all make up excuses to keep accumulating and accumulating and accumulating more. And we never give it a thought that this accumulation is such a paap may come. Yes, you have to earn a living, not a problem. But everything we do to earn a living includes some paap. And only we have to bear the fruits of that paap. Nobody else comes. Like they say, if I'm earning, my kids are not going to come to bear the fruits of that paap, or my spouse is not coming to bear the fruits of that paap. And I can justify all I want that I'm doing it for my family, I'm doing it for the better life of my children, and better this of this, and betterment of my extended family, and this and that. Doesn't matter. They are not willing to share the paap that you're binding with earning all this extra money, or even, whatever money for that matter.
That's like the story of Valmiki Ramayana, right? How he wrote
Yeah, that they said, ask your family who is going to come
if
with
they'll
you.
share your pop. And he, once he had that realization, then he sat and started chanting Rama Rama and became Valmiki, right? So yeah.
Yes. I mean, these are realities. I mean, they may sound funny, but that is the truth.
Yeah. No, so parigraha, right, or the possession is definitely a sin, right? But how is
but
that
anything
violence?
you do to earn a living, there is always hinsa. There is
Hinsa
always,
in terms of not a pure state of soul, right? Like you are not in your pure state
obviously,
of soul.
ultimate is the pure state of soul. But when you're going towards it, then you're classifying, you're trying to minimize. You may not be able to completely eradicate all hinsa, but you are minimizing. So you at least first take out all the fluff that's unnecessary. Right? I mean, yes, breathing is important. You cannot give that up. You cannot give up eating as long as you're living. But accumulation, yes, that should be first thing to go.
One question, Prabhaji, they mentioned honey. Why is honey bad to eat?
Okay, so honey is bad because it's a few different reasons. Number one, honeycomb has the eggs, the larva, all of that of the bee. Okay. Even when they say that, oh, I've gone to places where they will say, we don't kill the bees, take the honey, and they will call it vegan honey, some of them. No, but they cannot do that because even though the bees have left, there is still larva and eggs and still left in that honeycomb. So when they try to get the honey out, all those are killed. So that is one. Number two, it's excreta of the bees. So just think, what are we eating?
And number three, you're also stealing what they have produced
Right.
for
What they
themselves.
do it
It's
for
not,
themselves.
it's
So
not
we are
for you.
stealing.
They're not producing it for you, right? So
Exactly. Yes. So that too.
But as a broader question, it becomes like anything you eat comes to that. Like, why are you killing a plant?
You are right. You are right. Yes. And that is why I said you cannot completely eradicate hinsa. You
Right.
can only minimize it.
minimize.
So that
It
is why
just
we say, okay, if it is ekendriya, we will accept it, but we will limit ourselves to that. So when you say lava in the honeycomb, that is more than one sensed. Okay, so that is the reason. And now then within ekendriya also, we say, okay, we'll minimize to the point where even though aloo piyaj is also ekendriya, but there is too many of them. So let's minimize further if we can do without. And the reason is not just what it is. The reason is to control my kashai. That I am not so deeply attached. It's that I cannot do without. Yes, I cannot do without eating because I will die. My body needs something to eat to survive. But how much hinsa do I want to do to survive? Any hinsa I do beyond minimum is only because of my rag, right? Because I like that. I ate onion garlic in my childhood, so I like it. I'm used to it. So I cannot give it up.
Eating at night is also the same thing, like you're
Oh,
minimizing
yes.
the number of hours that you're eating, right? That is your
No,
concept.
no. Yeah. So, I tell my children this too, but I don't know, these kids cannot do it yet. But the point is, yes, people do intermittent fasting nowadays for whatever different reasons. But like my kids, they start at noon and they end at 8. Now, 8 in the summertime might be okay, it's still daytime. But in the wintertime, it's not okay. It's eating after dark. So I try to tell them, why don't you switch those 8 hours? You start after sunrise and end, before sunset. You'll still accomplish the same thing. So yes, at night eating, it causes different beings that we cannot see. So mota mota to hota hi hai कि because of light there might be mosquitoes but chalo wo to purane zamane ki baat hogi. That doesn't happen now as much. Still, some of it can happen. But like in the old days, I remember as a child in India, मतलब India में तो शादियों में बाहर वो lawn में खिलाते हैं खाना. Oh, it was so gross to watch. Literally वो मच्छर वच्छर पड़ सकते थे खाने में. It was pretty bad. But so, okay, so now here, maybe that won't happen because we usually don't have mosquitoes in the house. But still, the Shastras say that there are more than one sense beings that are produced in the dark, which still do exist. And again, like I said, our main focus is not about all those justifications. Our main focus is to give up rag. So if we are able to, we should. But that doesn't mean we go through a guilt trip because, oh my God, I just cannot give up going to these parties. And unfortunately, in the wintertime, they cannot feed me at 4 o'clock. So fine, accept it that is your rag, that is your weakness, and that is why you eat it after dark. But when it's in your control at home, if you can manage to eat before dark, do so. But don't justify that, oh, because there I'm eating anyways, so I'm just going to eat it. No, you can still minimize whichever situation you're in. So, and then if you cannot, then accept that this is my weakness. For whatever reason, my body is craving at night or whatever the case may be. But the more you have in your mind that it is rag and it is something that I can change, it will happen. The more understanding you get, it naturally happens. And, again, it may depend on your body situation. It can depend on certain factors that if it doesn't happen today. But the point is, if your Shraddha is right, your understanding is correct, then eventually it will go. Because obviously you don't want to get unnecessary pap karma for something that can be easy to quit.
So Prabhaji, why do they also, this is Rupal, why is it that they say that 48 minutes, that it's not only just before sunset, but it's like 48 minutes before sunset?
I think 48 minutes before sunset is for people who should do they don't recommend drinking water also. So then you have to give yourself that time to drink water because you are going to get thirsty after you eat.
And also the 48 minutes before sunrise and 48 minutes after sunset is also considered punyakal, like every daily punyakal. So it's a particularly good time for spiritual practices. So better not to eat or drink that time if you can avoid.
Yeah, that can be the case. But no, I mean, normally, yes, you can eat right away after sunrise. But like, for
I said
example,
48
when
minutes
I was doing
before
upvas,
sunrise.
I used to do all the time. And if I had to go to work, I was just waiting for the sun to come out and just eat, right? Because now I have to get back to my work or do whatever, right? But normally, if you're not in a situation where you're having to drive to work or something like that, then people say, well, you've already fasted for 32 hours. What's another hour? So you stretch it to Nokarsi.
To Nokarsi. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the reason that was 48. But there's no like rule that you have to wait 48 hours, 48 minutes rather.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And then the evening 48 minutes prior is so you have enough time to drink water. So
then the one other thing was the whole thing around boiling water versus filtered water.
Yeah, I struggle with that for a while too, because I was, like I said, I went to Catholic school. So I had this deep compassion koot ke bhara hua tha mere mein. So I used to I'm like, why do I boil? My God, I feel like I'm just jabardasti killing these beings by boiling water. So I just never my mind just couldn't agree to that, to boil water. Then I found out what the reason is. I still have to convince myself in the sense that, see, in India, people usually store the water in a pot or something. So once you contain the water in something, there is jivas constantly being born and dying, and that circle keeps going, right? But so that means that jitne bhi असंख्य जीव जो पैदा हो रहे हैं मर रहे हैं, you are responsible for it, those jeeves that are in the pot. But if you boil it, you've killed those, of course, one time that existed in there at one time, but now the new ones won't get born for 8 hours, or there's this logic behind in the winter time, summertime, all those things. So then you are getting pop for the ones you killed during boiling, but it's still less than if they were in the pot and constantly, dying and born like that. That's the justification for it.
That's kind of a big topic. We could talk for an hour, I think, about the water thing, because it's
but to me, I am just getting it from the tap. It's flowing water. It's just the natural thing. To me, that's more ahimsa.
And also, like those bugs, they stay alive in your body anyways when you drink the water, right? That's how people get sick with bad water, for example, right? So that's
well, so that's another reason you should boil. So you don't want bad bugs anyway.
But I'm saying you're not killing the bugs. But Auntie, I did read something a few years ago which made a lot of sense to me. In Ayurveda, there is something that the water changes, the quality of the water changes as you boil it down. So it might be something related to that, because there's all sorts of other reasons that have a religious gloss on them, but there may be other reasons.
Ayurveda and Jainism may not kind of see eye to eye, honestly speaking, because Ayurveda strongly recommends honey and we don't eat honey. So there are differences. Okay, so Ayurveda, I don't know if it really focuses on ahimsa.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but there may be other reasons to boil water.
No, I don't think that reason to boil the water was there for ahimsa, but it was there because the digestion of the water becomes easier on your body.
No. Jainism doesn't focus on digestion.
No, I'm saying in Ayurveda.
Ayurveda, yes, that can be the reason. But Jainism will only focus on hinsa.
Right.
Here, we don't need to kill, and that's why we do these things.
Yes. Yeah. In Ayurveda, they say that if you boil the water, the digestion power becomes higher. It absorbs in your body better. And that's why, there's
Yeah, that's possible.
they always tell you to
But
drink more.
Jainism will say that, hey, this is only one body.
Yeah,
Think about it. To protect this one little body,
you're going to do so much
you're
hinsa.
making all this पाप, जिसके रिजल्ट में आपको फिर से वेदना से और बीमारियां मिलेगी नेक्स्ट लाइफ में. So what good is it?
Yeah.
Right? So, use some logic there.
Yeah. I mean, it's Ayurveda looks at just today this
It's
body.
different way, yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
and Jainism believes
More in the
the
compassion.
whole part of your life, right?
So, okay, so if you think about Jainism, if you say you were not to do all this hinsa, you were not to do a lot of these pap, you were to focus on your soul. Eventually we'll learn, when we learn the karma theory, is that just by the mere fact that you are focusing on your soul, you are putting your attention towards this, you naturally can change your bad karmas to good karmas. They can convert. There is so many things that can happen within the karmas that automatically you may have Sata Vedni. So in which case, Ayurveda wouldn't really come into play there anyways. So you could do a lot more by just a study, just a nirnay, and things happen naturally. So it's like, people saying that, if for hinsa purpose, people will not leave, let's say, aloo pyaj or whatever it may be, right? Or kal doctor keh dega ki you have diabetes, you have to quit eating potatoes. That's kind of like the Ayurveda thing, right? Doctor ne keh diya ab diabetes ho gayi hai, that's too much carbs, you cannot eat potatoes. And people will give it up for that one life. And what about the lives to come? Multiple. Would you rather does it make logical sense to do something what is going to be beneficial for lives to come versus just this one Pudgal ka body?
But the difference is until we see this body and the life that is going to happen, the other ones, it's hard to believe it, right? Because we read it, we follow it, but
Yes.
something, if we don't see it, it's obviously that.
You are right. But I can vouch for it that I have actually felt it. I have felt it. I've experimented with myself a lot of these principles that I study. And I mean, it's not like I don't get sick or anything like that. But when I use these principles, I have realized that a lot of things don't happen, or they happen and kind of go away without bothering me much. So, but it takes time. Yes, you have to, you slowly start believing in it. I mean, it's an experimentation, right? You believe in it, you see the results, then you further believe more. So this is one of those things. So right now we're only learning at a logical sense, right? You're right. I mean, you cannot see, so it's difficult to make logic out of it. So initially you have to believe it, experiment with it, and then your belief gets stronger. Okay, so next person, Hinsa ke prakar. Was that you?
Yeah, all right. Hinsa is divided into two categories: Dravya Hinsa, Bhav Hinsa. Physical harm to any jeev is Dravya Hinsa, violence in action, and thoughts of hurting is Bhav Hinsa, violence in thought. While people usually understand this much, but most people still don't understand that the intention to protect is also not actually true ahimsa, because that is also the manifestation of rag, attachment. Existence of rag, whatever may be the type, is nischay in reality, hinsa and only hinsa, because it is the reason for bondage of karma. It should be inaccurate to think that when Acharya Amrit Chandra included emergence of rag in the definition of hinsa, then at that time he may have overlooked its broader meaning, shubh rag and ashubh rag. The most true and ultimate definition of hinsa has been given by Acharya Amrit Chandra, that all rag bhav, be it of any kind, is hinsa. If it has been referred as ahimsa somewhere, it should be understood as a statement of vyavhar, conventional point of view.
Okay,
Here, yeah.
okay, so here again, they're emphasizing, which I already explained, that the point is not just hinsa and ahimsa, it's about your attachment towards things. So the more you justify, no, I must eat this because of this and because of that, it shows that you are attached to that. And I have experienced that myself, right? My husband is vegan now for like last 30 years. I try to be vegan, but I would say I'm only 90% vegan. And that is because I am very attached to milk sweets. You know, I used to like love the rasgullas and rasmalais or whatever, right? So I would say, but then at the same time, I did believe in veganism. So I made myself a promise. Okay, I will not bring it in the house. So at home, I have to be vegan, right? So I'm not bringing any milk or none of those things. But then I would go to parties and, oh, there's a rasmalai. So I can't control. So then I would say to myself, okay, I'm not going to force myself keep nahi khana, because then I'm like building up that, because that attachment is there, and now I'm like outside say I'm like forcing myself to not eat, but inside say if the ichha is still there, then I'm still getting that pop. So then I noticed that because inside I really didn't want to, that every party, if there was like 6 doodh ki mithais, then naturally my mind would say, I think I'm just going to try 3, I think today. And next time only 2, or sometimes only 1. So the point is that inside I want to do it, but it's not happening because of the rag. Because that tivra rag is there, because from childhood I didn't enjoy any other mithais except the milk mithais. So if that happens, then you take it as, rather than justifying that no, iske bina to nahi reh sakte and it's not practical to do. No, it is practical to do. It's just that your attachment is too much right now towards it, and it will diminish by time with time. So
One question, Prabhaji. What do they mean by people still don't understand the intention to protect is also not actually true ahimsa?
yes, because while you're protecting somebody, you are harming somebody else too.
So
We
what
are
is supposed
protecting
to,
India.
if I
Guess
see
what? We are hurting
something,
somebody else.
yeah, but if you see somebody hurting your child or something, then what do you do?
Well, you protect, but that's your duty in this mode, like as a shravak, as a grahast, you can. But if you were sadhu, no. If you were a sadhu, so obviously sadhu gives up the family, right? So once you're
Right.
sadhu, it's really not your son, or but still the wife and the son do come to visit the sadhu. And even though he's given up that relationship, he still knows in his mind that he was his son, right? Now he's the sadhu, and in front of his eyes, somebody's killing his son. He will not feel like protecting him. But in our bhumika, where we still have the rag, you accept the fact that we have the rag, and that's why we are not sadhus yet. And in that bhumika, yes, it is okay to protect.
Auntie, just there was one time me and Dinesh were walking in a park nearby, and there were these 2 bugs. One was a bigger bug, and there was a smaller bug. They both were like fighting so much, and we knew that the bigger bug eventually will kill the other one, right? And so we were just standing, and me and Dinesh were thinking, what should we do? Should we interfere in their fight? Because it could be the bigger bug's food, right? If you take a look, or should we interfere and then save the small bug, and then the bigger bug go hungry and then dies himself, right? Like, so there was this.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting thing. Okay. So I can relate that to, I used to feed the birds in my backyard.
Yeah.
There used to be a thrift store near our house where you could buy a day-old bread for cheap. So I would bring a lot of loaves of bread, and every day I would spread, like, bread in my patio. And then a lot of beautiful birds would come every day and they would eat. And that used to make me feel very happy.
Mm.
Then one day I couldn't do it. I forgot or got busy or whatever. And these poor birds are chirping, chirping, chirping because they're looking for that food and it's not there. And I was like, oh my God, I'm making these birds so sad by not putting that bread out that I every day do. And then I thought, oh, which means when I go on vacation, when I go to India for a month or whatever, that means these birds are not going to get anything. And then how sad will they be? Look at all these, because they're chirping, I'm thinking they're crying, they're looking for food, and like, I'm having all my emotional trauma there. So I was like, oh, then I stopped. I stopped like feeding them. I'm like, no, it's better that I don't put anything out. That way they're not expecting, they're not being sad, and that's it. Okay. So I was talking to one of my friends, Jane friends also, and she gave me a very interesting, very nice answer. She said, the fact that you think that you were feeding them or not feeding them, you don't have the capacity to do either. There are zillions of animals and birds and insects and whatever in the nature. What do you think? We go feed them? We take care of them? No. Life happens for them. They figure out how they're going to get their food, and they're alive on their own means, not because of somebody else. So when you give food, you are just showing your compassionate nature, and that's about it. You don't take the responsibility of saving or making unhappy somebody. So if I don't give, they will find their own way to figure out food.
So that's that Dravyatara attribute, right? That one Dravya cannot change anything of other Dravya. That is
Yes.
exactly. We can be a nimit or instrumental cause, but
Yes.
we are
But
not the root cause. So
if
in this
they
case,
have
what
to get
Deepal,
food, they will find it somewhere else. If I didn't put it out, they have their own ways to find food.
But auntie,
so
just on the same note, I did exactly the same thing in my backyard. I brought like this bird food, and I had like, I wanted to attract wild birds and all that, just because they're so pretty to look at. So I brought a lot of Nigel seeds and whatever the different birds wanted. I went to like a special bird store. Anyways, I got all the food, and for 2 years I attracted a lot of birds, and it was really pretty to see. But then I think one of the years, I started getting mice in my basement. And so then I called the guy, and he looked around the property, and we had to put mice poison inside and around the property. And he's like, you're feeding the birds. So like, I could not isolate that bird feed only is going to the birds, but it was also attracting mice. And then eventually they found a place in my basement, and then I had no option but to kill that. So my own action that was going to be good action, well, I can't now have the mice in my basement where I store food, right? So I have to get rid of them. And since then I have stopped feeding the birds. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when you do something, you mean well, you do it with a compassionate bhav, but you never think that because of you they are being fed, or because of you, that's what's happening. So, and you have to do right now when you're a householder, whatever is practical to do minimum hinsa.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, Dinesh, you go.
Last part, I think it's starting from here. So first, let me just thank you. We really appreciate the examples you give up to life because it helps us relate. And especially the point you made about trying to be vegan, it really resonates with me because mentally I'm in the same place as you. It is wrong, but my own rag prevents me from being fully vegan. So I appreciate, it's good to know that you're not alone in that struggle, right? To do the right thing. Okay, so here the question may arise that this kind of ahimsa can be practiced only by sadhus or monks, so it applies only to them. But for common people like Shravak householders, compassion or desire to save other jeevs is the only true ahimsa. But by mentioning this in the treatise written on the conduct of Shravak, Acharya Amrita Chandra has proved that ahimsa is not of two types. There can be two levels of implementing ahimsa into your life, but hinsa will remain hinsa. If a Shravak cannot give up complete hinsa, then he should give up hinsa in some parts. But the hinsa which he cannot give up cannot be considered as ahimsa. If one cannot renounce hinsa completely, one should renounce it partially. If he cannot do that also, then at least one should stop believing and calling hinsa to be dharma. Shubha rag, auspicious attachment, is rag, and hence is hinsa. And believing it to be dharma, this is not right. The emergence of afflictive emotions like rag, dvesh, moha is hinsa. And believing it to be dharma, righteous, is mahahinsa, great violence. Non-emergence of rag, dvesh, moha is supreme ahimsa. And not believing rag, etc., to be dharma is the correct understanding of ahimsa. Here, a question may arise that intense rag is hinsa, but why is manda, mild rag, also being called hinsa? Now, if rag is hinsa, then how can mild rag become ahimsa? After all, it is also a state of rag. Though it is true that mild rag is mild hinsa and intense rag is intense hinsa, therefore, if we cannot completely renounce hinsa, we should at least reduce it. The less the rag, the better it is. But its presence cannot be called dharma. Dharma is only in the absence of raga, dvesha, moha. And that alone is ahimsa, referred to as the supreme dharma.
So this answers your question, Dipali, that now you have Shubhrag towards that little insect, that he should not be killed. Yet the bigger one would go hungry. So they're saying that the Shubhrag towards one cannot be ahimsa. So you see, even though your thought is good, your thought is of saving, but yet that is emerging from a rag. So it cannot be called ahimsa or dharma for that matter.
Because often ahimsa is also defined as non-interference too, right? Non-violence, but also non-interference. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Even if we are interfering in our children's matters, that is also hinsa. And you can feel it. If your parents keep coming and probing at every little thing, you really think that they're, cruel to you. So
yeah, but it's so difficult to do if you have children or anybody close and you see something wrong happening, you would naturally want to go and help them, or you what you think is the
you
right thing to
think,
do.
but a lot of times our children don't think they needed that help. We always like to interfere. Of course, we think we mean well for them. I learned
but that's
this
up to
from an
them to take
American.
it
Can
or
you
not.
believe this? I used to work, and this one lady, I would always think that, oh my God, I have to do this for my children. And if I don't do this, they won't get the big SAT score that they need. And if I don't do this, make them practice, they won't get best at whatever they're doing. And I mean, all kinds of thoughts you have, especially when the children are growing up. So this American colleague of mine, one day I went to her cubicle and she's like, I'm like, what are you doing for all 15 minutes? I'm watching, you're not saying a word and just like, da, da, da. And then she says, you know what, Prabha? When your children call you or you call them and they want to share something, you don't think they're looking for advice. They're only looking for an ear to hear them out. That's it. You just listen to them. You may think they need your advice and, because you know better, you should tell them. Don't. And I learned this from an American.
Well, I think it also varies by age, right, Prabhaji? I mean, if they're young.
Of course, yes, it does. But of course, yes, that's said, yes, if you have a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, you must discipline them. You don't want them to go in the wrong direction. But always, okay, so here's the difference. Yes, at a younger age, you do have to control them. Keep that in mind, though, how far you go. So you can go so much And then you realize that, no, you cannot fix this situation. Then you must also know how to let go. Otherwise, I have seen moms go into depression because they cannot make their kids what they want to do. Like I couldn't make Rishi play trumpet after I bought him that expensive, custom trumpet from India. So I really wanted him to force that, finish your, trumpet lessons, and he decided to quit. So if I don't learn that I'm not the controller here, yes, I can try. I can be a nimit in my children's, whatever the destiny may be, but I'm not the deciding factor. They're born with their own karmas. They're born with their own upadan. And good or bad, whatever is supposed to happen to them is what's going to happen, whether I like it or not.
So maybe the answer is simple for parents. You do your duty, you say your,
That's it, and don't
give your advice, but then you leave it and let it go.
Leave it. I mean, and this is a good way
Yeah,
to.
but just 1 second. But here it's almost saying don't give advice.
Well, you have a duty as a parent.
I understand what Dinesh is saying.
It's
You
saying
should not be attached to.
interfere, which means that don't interfere to the point where you want to try to get your way. Right? Now, in an 8-10-year-old child, that's not really interference. That's more like a discipline. Right? Because they don't have a will either way. So they need to be guided.
Yeah,
So that's
but they
different.
need to be
Now, once
guided
you
till
have
they get to
adult
be
children,
30s.
yeah, in the 30s, they don't need guidance. They don't, believe me.
Spoken like a true girl dad.
No, sorry.
No matter how old they get, we always think of guidance. So.
Probably there is this fine line between what is nimit and what is a doer. We don't have to be a doer for then, but we can be a nimit.
That doesn't mean I'm just being a nimit. Let me just lecture away to these 30-year-old kids. No.
Then does that mean you just be a knower?
I'm telling you, reading, studying this really helps you let go.
Yeah, that understood. But then, right, then should we be just the knower all the time? So as Viraj gave
As
the
much as
example,
possible,
if
yes.
somebody is hitting my child, right, who is whatever 10 years old, then I can be a knower saying that I cannot really, it is his karma.
No.
Really make any
Remember, I
difference
gave you the example. You are not in that sadhu state yet. And when the children cannot defend themselves, yes, it is the parents' duty to defend them.
So you get whatever dosh, right? But you have to accept it because you are a Shravak and you are not a saint.
Yes, you will still get
Also,
half of it. Yes.
Yeah. Also, we have decided to have kids. I'm going to say, if
Right. I mean, so you do have to do your duties.
Yeah,
It's
if
not
we
like
wanted-
your child is in the hospital and no, I don't need to go. I'm busy doing my swadhyaya. No, you still have to do your duties.
Yeah. If we wanted to be knower, then we should have not have kids, right? Like,
yeah, but you don't control having kids.
I know, but you would do that for any child on this. If your neighbor's child is there, we would still do it. I mean, it doesn't have to be.
You will do it, but you won't have that attachment, right? You would go and protect the child. Yeah, I mean, of course, you see somebody falling off of a bike. Of course, you'll go and help them out.
Yeah, you won't feel the pain because
But
if
you
your
won't
child
feel as much pain as your child falling
that's true.
and losing his knee. Yeah.
Good lesson today. More practical.
Yeah, but then we just do gossips and then we are only done with one chapter today.
No, it's not gossip. No, it helps to understand. I think it's very good.
It's more of practical implementation of what we are learning, right? Like day-to-day situation, what do we need to do? If you have to really increase our stages of our self-realization, right, then how do we do it? Otherwise, we just keep on doing these lectures, right? But
increase the self-realization. Look at that.
I think Viraj and Rupal and we have older kids. Some people have younger kids. So it's we
Viraj and Rupal, how old are your kids?
Oh my gosh, our kids now they're pretty old. They're our oldest
30,
one.
35 and 31.
Oh, okay.
Ours are 24 and 22.
2 and 24, yeah.
Yes, it's about 10 years
Yeah, it's
old.
already, once they're 18, they're gone. You are not responsible for their destiny. They can figure it out themselves.
And
they do anyways. Whatever we wanted them to become, they don't always become.
No,
If they do,
no,
we
it's
think,
true.
oh, we help them. If they don't, then what? You
So-
know?
So our friends,
It's
so we
those
met.
for them, right?
So,
Now,
so a real quick story. Our friends met. We met today, and she said, "Oh, I have to tell you, your younger daughter paid you a compliment." What's the compliment? Is that when your older daughter, who's got 2 grandkids, when she tells you, "Mom, no, this is not the way I want to discipline," you just walk away and you don't do it. And I was like, I never knew I did that. I'll take the compliment.
The youngest daughter compliment was that mom listens to the older daughter and does what the older daughter says.
Oh, and then
that
the
was a
other one, they
compliment.
fight about this, who is favored.
that's very common.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, you can think back with your own experiences and realize that you didn't do anything.
No, it's
Even
true.
though we got tons of compliment, when our kids graduated and they did so well in so many activities and so many awards and this and that, and people wrote emails to us like parents, like children, and oh, because it's all your upbringing and it's all your Jainism teaching and this and that, and yeah, we took all those rewards nicely. But now I realize, no, it was not us.
Didn't do anything.
It was their own destiny. Yes.
Yeah. We take that pride, but that is our big moha, especially when it comes to kids.
That
right?
is our big. So
Yeah.
this is when you realize that no, we had nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
So yes. And the biggest realization comes when they find their own spouses. No matter how much we think we want to help.
Wait till you have grandchildren, Prabhaji.
So
Okay.
so then it's like, oh, ooh, the realization that we really couldn't help them, So okay. All right. So next week you have to finish up to reading chapter 2 of
Chapter
Namokar
2, yeah.
Mahamantra, and we'll definitely do 2. Well, next 2 chapters are pretty easy, so we'll definitely do 2 chapters. Okay. सहजानंदी शुद्ध स्वरूपी अविनाशी हूँ आत्मस्वरूप सहजानंदी शुद्ध स्वरूपी अविनाशी हूँ आत्मस्वरूप सहजानंदी शुद्ध स्वरूपी अविनाशी हूँ आत्मस्वरूप निज निधि निज में बताई यह अनंत उपकार है इसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना शत बार है वंदना शत बार है जय जिनेन्द्र Actually, I have an interesting episode too. I mean, there used to be this somebody called Rajni Bhai from New York, New Jersey area. Also, it is beginning years when we were into Swadhyay. He was a Gujarati speaker, and he would come, and he used to tell us this little thing about they used to live in a joint family with their grandkids, and he would say like, we feel so bad leaving our grandkids and going somewhere that then you feel that the kids would reciprocate the same way. So he would say that I would tell my grandchild that, oh, grandpa has to go for so many days. And the grandchild would, I don't care. It's like, like you have all this more towards them. They're showing you, they don't care. So you better learn fast.